Hey family, good morning. It's Tasha MAMABEAR Prepping. So you already know what time it is, baby. Pull up, get your drink. Let's talk about it. Today I just want to talk about natural disasters. I want to talk a little bit about preparing for things that could happen where you live, right? Oftentimes you'll see people when they're asked the question, why do you prep? It's because a very specific event happened, which then made them start, thinking and being a critical thinker, and that bad things could happen, and how do I prepare? How do I make sure that this specific thing does not happen again? And then they expand that. Sometimes people kind of learn about preparedness and just being ready in general. They don't really go through something specific, but they want to prepare. And then if you ask somebody who's been doing it for a while, they typically will tell you, well, you prepare for what's going to happen in your area first, right? So people prepare for different things, natural disasters, right? Things that can happen by nature, storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, things like that, right? Things that happen with nature. So natural disasters, volcanoes, just different things like that, right? And then you have folks that prepare for more close to home real life stuff, right? Inflation, loss of a job, loss of income, right? How do they continue to provide for their family, provide food, get through that, right, situation? So it could be something that's more practical, or it could be something that's just, hey, we're just ready for a storm, a power outage. The lines are down for whatever reason, and we just want to be able to be prepared for that power outage and getting through it and being able to continue the quality of life in our everyday life, right? So it really doesn't matter what you prepare for. Oftentimes, if you prepare for any of those things, hardcore, and all the different aspects that you would have to deal with, in theory, you're ready for all the other things, right? You prepare for no power, you're ready for a lot of other things. Now, when people ask me, I tell them, well, where do you live and what are the threats to you and your family? What are the things that you have to worry about where you live? But this could be something as simple as there's high crime where I live. That's something that you're preparing for, that you ensure that you are prepared in certain areas because you live in a high crime area, right? This doesn't have to look like, well, I live in a hurricane area. This can be, I live, in Chicago, where people get shot all the time, and I have to prepare my family for that, right? And that's fortifying your home, security of your home, your car, going back and forth to work. How do you logistically go out and get things, go shopping, go out and be about kids, the schools, your being when you're out and about getting gas or whatever. There's preparedness that you're doing in order to be ready for situations that could happen. And in that situation, the person is in a high crime area where it's very close to home and absolutely could happen. Stray bullets. How are you preparing for? You live in a city like that, and people are literally getting killed just being in their homes, right? So how do you prepare your home for that? How do you fortify your home for that? Okay. And that seems so far-fetched from most people's scenarios, but that's what I mean by as simple as it gets. What is the threat to you and your family that could happen to you now, right? For a lot of people right now, you're preparing because you're battling inflation. You're battling shortages and how you're going to maneuver through that. You're battling maybe unemployment and job insecurities. You're dealing with food insecurities. That's chaos for people. That's the emergency crisis is that. It's not a hurricane. So but I think it's important that whatever the crisis is, that you prepare for it, you prepare for it fully, you take notes, think about all the areas in your life that it affects, and then go about doing what you need to do to get the things and prepare and write these plans out. Hey, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do to hopefully fortify ourselves from this crisis that may happen. I think it's important to identify where you live, natural disasters that you have to worry about. Do you have to worry about forest fires? Do you have to worry about flooding, mudslides? Do you have to worry about hurricanes, tornadoes, winter storms? Do you need to worry about just rainfall in general, snowfall, snow melt, right? what is it exactly that you have to deal with? Is it a longer winter storm time frame, right? Is it a shorter time frame, but it's very, very increased, right? Very low temperatures, blizzardy type conditions at time. And what do you do to prepare your home, your family, yourself, so that you can go about life with these things that are going to come your way, right? Are you prepared for stuff with your house that could happen, you know, outside of these things? The domino effect of these happening, the no power, the possibly start of fires and explosions. You know, are you ready for those things that could happen in these different scenarios? And then there's much bigger things that can happen, right? And we won't even get into that. You know, I saw an article, I'm sure if you're in Washington with me, you might have seen this in your local feed as well. And it was talking about what's Washington State's #1 natural disaster, right? And it was alluding to the fact that most people in this state believe that it's forest fires, especially if you're on the east side of the state. We deal with a lot of forest fires in certain areas on the west side, both north and south. But eastern side of the state. Now we deal with it a little bit on the western side as well, but it's heavier on the eastern side. So maybe Washington people think, hey, that's our natural disaster. Well, it's actually #1. That's #2. #1, it was alluding to the fact that flooding is actually our #1 natural disaster, mudslides, right? Now you would say, well, you guys get so much rain, you're used to that. Isn't your stuff maybe structured for that, right? I think that is true in a lot of ways because the rainfall is so heavy in this state. Things are built to that specification, right? That there is a lot of rainfall. I think trees are rooted a little bit better here because we've always gotten rainfall. This is the Pacific Northwest. Those trees have always been watered, if you will, meaning they grow deeper, they grow wider, their roots really spread out. Where, you know, I see these places that don't get a lot of rain, and then all of a sudden a rain event happens where they're at, and trees are coming down left and right, right? It's not that trees don't come down left and right here. They do. But I will see oftentimes the places that are drier, those trees come down quicker. And I don't know if it's because they're drought tolerant, their roots have maybe not grown out as far, but they tend to come up, you know, especially places like California gets hit with crazy rain all of a sudden, and the root structures just left and right are coming out of the ground, okay? Also because it rains here, it storms, right? There's a lot of wind. Folks, prepare for that, right? It's a natural home preparedness thing, if you will, to bring tree people out, have them, you know, look at the trees, especially if you have really, really big trees. Our property here doesn't have any old school, mature, super big trees, but we have them all around us with our neighbors. I mean, huge trees, right? And so, but I feel halfway comfortable because I know that they, for a fact, bring tree people out every year as just basic home maintenance for the year. And they come out and they prune and they cut old branches down or anything that looks sus, right? Looks like, hey, it could be a problem during a heavy storm. And so they're heavily manicured and taken care of. Could a tree still come down? Absolutely. But at least I know that the maintenance is being done to hopefully prevent that from happening, right? So I appreciate that. And that's them being prepared. That's them exercising preparedness in their home and for storms. There's a lot of things that you can do around your house. You know, well, what happens with flooding? Well, flooding can happen a couple ways. It's over time. It's just steady rain. And eventually it's so much that it inundates any kind of drainage or whatever, right? And then you have flash flooding, which you almost can't battle because it happens so fast that you can't, right, really battle it. You can battle it in the sense of that you can do things around your home in overall protection of flooding, right? But boy, if depending on how bad it is, you might just be out of luck. But there's a lot of stuff you can do. A lot of stuff, some preps that we have, extenders for the gutters. So, you know, you have the gutters at the top, you have the spigots that come down. Well, a lot of times those spigots just come out, maybe just L out a little bit, but it's right there. It's still right by the house. That's where it's eventually, if it's over and dated, it's gonna puddle up right there up against the house and keep rising. And so you want to work just for basic rain. This this is, is get an extender. And they have 1 foot, 2 foot, shorter versions of extensions. And then they have much longer tubing that you can actually take out, and maybe you have a field next to you, or maybe you have just the grading goes down somewhere and it's the perfect area. Maybe it's a long tube to just divert it down to your driveway, whatever the case may be, right? But that simple stuff could help you from having personal flooding and personal leaking type situations happening, right? And that's like every day. So cleaning your gutters, getting those spigots, getting some extenders, that's basic house maintenance that could save you a lot of time. Then when it comes to, okay, you're getting a little bit more flooding, the neighborhood's flooding, there's different things that you can do as far as sandbagging and getting that ready. And you can pre-prepare that. I mean, you can either fill bags, put them on a pallet, put them inside somewhere, which you must, because if you keep them outside, they're just going to deteriorate over time because of weather. Keep them indoors until you need them so that they're solid and they're going to work when you need to put them in front of a door. You can have a pretty serious storm that you physically can see it's starting to get out of hand. Things are starting to rise. You're starting to see things. This is the time we're trying to figure out, like, dang, is this really going to flood? Should we stay here? Should we not? And in that moment, you could be doing stuff and not just sitting there. You could be picking stuff up off the floor in your home. You could be sandbagging doors, sandbagging the driveway to keep hopefully water flowing in the streets, down the street, away from homes. You can be diverting. There's stuff that you can do ahead of time with grading downward, having little runaway trenches, not deep trenches, just little shallow trenches going away, going towards the driveway, maybe that then goes down to the street. Putting some nice river rock in it, and just allowing that as that rain happens, even when it's heavy and it's starting to just really come down, you have those kind of already in place to help that water run away from the home. Even in a flooding type situation, that can be helpful if you've done that correctly and really keep water away from you. And then the chaos is happening all around you in a worse manner than it is. Maybe you can't get away from it and it is what it is, and now it's just about getting furniture up off the ground, getting stuff off, a water line. You're worried about, get stuff up on counters and stuff, right? Get furniture up off the ground, that type of thing. Turning the electricity off, right? If you're sticking around and you're there's safety things that you need to be doing, to be safe if you're not leaving, right? I mean, that can be a very, very serious situation. I've never ever been in a flood situation. Last year or the year before, I wasn't here, but my sister was here in the house, and there was a significant amount of rain, and I remember her calling us and saying, there's areas that are like, they had to evacuate the Walmart, then like that part of town was flooding, and it was crazy. I was like, what? And I was like, well, how's the house? She was like, the house is fine. Like, our area was fine, but that area somehow it's obviously it is next to a river, and it, and it's kind of in a valley area, but I guess there was crazy flooding. And so that's the first time that I even heard of anything like that here. We're looking for a house right now. We look at flood. You can look at your FEMA flood zones. It will tell you like 100-year. It will tell you the normal stuff that happens like every year. Hey, this floods. This floods every 10 years. I mean, you really got to look at a couple things where you live, right? This isn't just about buying a home, but where do you live? Are you in a valley? Or how close are you to water sources? When are the last times that they flooded, right? How bad was it when they did flood? Do you live on a mountainside? What is above you? Okay, because mudslides is a huge issue when a lot of rainfall happens like that. And it doesn't matter if it's a normal place like this or some place that doesn't get rain that much at all. Mudslides are a thing, and they're very, very dangerous. Now, there's things that you can do, retainer walls and different things like that, but you still might have to deal with that. And how do you prepare for that? Because those can happen anywhere. You just your commute, you could be having to worry about what does that look like in different places that could have potential mudslides and how that would affect you, right? Mudslides around your neighborhood that could close off certain roads, roads of getting out of your neighborhood and getting in your neighborhood, knowing the different routes. There's a lot that you can do. Some people might be like, well, what do? You can't really prepare for that, but there is stuff that you can do to prepare. What I would ask that you get from this is you just simply start researching the things that are natural disasters, the biggest things in your state, in your city, where you live. and prepare for those things, right? And watch videos, research, find out what people are doing, what are the experts doing to prepare, right? What does FEMA say? I don't know. I don't really care for their instructions, you know, and their advisement, but I do believe in stats and different things, and I do go to them for some stats for different stuff, especially flooding, FEMA flooding stats for our area. So I think it's important to think about that and understand what that would look like. And even if it's a 100-year thing, hey, this only happens every 100 years. You know, crazier things have happened, you guys. These weather patterns are getting out of control, and people are obviously dealing with weather that they've never dealt with before, or on a much heavier level. And so you've got to take a look at your house, your surroundings, what it is, what can you do for your situation that makes it better. And this might not be my situation, as far as this article that was saying flooding and mudslides are number one disaster that we have to worry about here, right? To me, there's much bigger things that I worry about living here. Elevation where I'm at matters to me. How close I am to the ocean still matters to me. I still believe there's a possibility I'm too close to the ocean, and we're far from the ocean, but I still believe that, you know, because I don't know what that tsunami is going to look like one day. I don't exactly trust all the scientists to just say, hey, this is the simulator, this is how far it's going to go, you have nothing to worry about, right? I don't necessarily believe that, right? And so you know, I do worry about these things, and how do you prepare for certain things, right? So take a look in your area, take a look at you know, models of whatever it is, right? If it's hurricanes, if it's tornadoes, how bad are they? Tornadoes, for example, you know, Tornado Alley used to be typically like parts of Texas, right? Going up northern Texas, Oklahoma, parts of Kansas, Nebraska, like that whole area was Tornado Alley. If you've noticed over the last decade, that has changed extremely, and Tornado Alley really now is shifted over east, and it's more of like northern, you know, Arkansas and Tennessee, Missouri, Kentucky. It's that whole area. It's the northern part of Louisiana, Alabama. It's that whole area, right? Going towards like Georgia. So those areas have to worry about this way more than they ever had to worry about it before, right? And they might not necessarily, like, maybe they were like, well, yeah, from time to time, these areas do get tornadoes. But now, just in the last year, 2 years, huge uptick in the probability of a tornado in these areas. We're seeing towns destroyed by tornadoes that haven't really had to worry about it before. Maybe it could happen, but it was really in these other states you had to worry about and make sure, like if you bought a home, you better make sure it has a shelter, and the workplace had a shelter, and everybody prepares for this, right? And so those areas that I just discussed, that's kind of the new Tornado Alley, the new, you know, those are states that I have like-minded people. We have thought for years we would move to one of those states. And what has stopped me, before I even retired, what was stopping me was the weather. And the weather that was happening, and those weather patterns that are changing. And I was like, something's just telling me, like, that's not the place to be. The weather is getting off the chain. So, you know, fam, you live in those states down there, you know, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, any of the northern half of those southern you need to be preparing for the dynamic of weather, and for it to increase and be much more of a bigger player in your preparedness than ever before, right? Because that's something that you hardcore have to prepare for, right? And it's different. It's different than people who prepare for hurricanes. It's a different dynamic. I mean, hurricanes can be absolutely bad, but you know, typically it's really like people that live on the coastline get that initial hit, and then maybe a few miles in, and then after that things start to die down, and it's just heavy storm, and there's absolute damage, but you don't have people losing their entire homes. Tornadoes, they go through and you have destruction, utter destruction. There's no way to prepare for something that is just going to level your home, come through and level your home. And if the timing is right, level your family, right? So I can't do it. I don't know how people can can live in an area knowing something like that could happen. I mean, that's faith by God, because I can't do it, right? It's one of the reasons, seriously, that we stay where we're at. We stay where we're at because I want to not put myself purposely in an area where I know I'm going to have to prepare hardcore for something. And I like the renewable resources that are up here, like I've discussed on other videos. So take a look at your area, see what you need to prepare for where you live, and then start doing those things. And if you live somewhere and you've been doing this for a while and you're prepared, you're like, hey, I've been prepared for this stuff, just take another circle and look around, and then look at the domino effects of things that could happen and making sure that you're prepared for those things, right? As well, because there's levels, right? There's levels to this on the things that you and your family could be affected by. And then again, look at it and not dumb it down, but look at it at a more simple level. It might not be a natural disaster that you and your family are preparing for where you live. It could be something like crime, right? Like I mentioned, right? It could be other things that you're having to prepare for and ensure your family is safe from. So hopefully you got something out of this video. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, I have started a Patreon. That account is up and running. Thank you for my Cubs and Grizzlies that have come over and joined me. I'm super excited. I can't even explain it, right? I have a welcome video over there right now, and my first video is going to drop Monday, and I'll be dropping videos over there on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, no matter what. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful weekend. We have sun today, so we're going to probably finish up the last pieces that we needed for our chicken run to get that finally done and completed, and get that video uploaded on my Mama Bear homestead channel. And then it's rain again. So we're going to try to get out there today and get a lot of stuff done. I hope you were out and about and getting stuff. Do not stop, right? A lot of people are like, oh, should we, they're starting to feel complacent and okay, maybe I have enough. And they're just, don't stop. Don't stop. Don't quit. Just keep going, keep pressing forward, calmly look through, find your holes and fill those things. Don't just buy stuff to buy stuff, okay? Do not do that. Look and go room by room. If you don't know and you're like, man, I need to keep going, just go to a room or go to a section and take a look at it and see where are the holes. What do I need to get just for this one area right now, and getting it filled back up. Do not panic and don't just buy stuff to buy stuff. That's not the way to do it, especially now, baby, with these prices, okay? You got to be smart, right? There was days I used to just go out and just spend hundreds of dollars just willy-nilly, just how I wanted to, right? And I can't do that anymore. I really have to think it through and be like, okay, I'm taking this much money to go get some groceries, or I'm gonna go get this. I'm gonna go get this prep because it's a hole that I need to fill. It's not just going out and getting random things. And whatever, I put my side on and I'm like, oh, well, yeah, we need this for prepping. I'm just going to get it. There's no more of that. Okay. You got to be smart, with your money. But assets important. Keep doing it. Keep moving forward. Be kind, be well, do everything in love. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care. Bye.